morning. Let's try that again because I got cut off. Good morning. There we go. That's more like it. Heaven and nature singing this morning here at the Unitarian Universalist Society of Bangor. I'm Reverend Drew Moeller, and it's a pleasure to be with you all of you who are joining us here in the sanctuary, and those who are joining us on the internet through our Zoom feed. Welcome, welcome all. We have a lot of things happening in our community around this holiday time. So before we start our service, I'm going to invite Lori Cartier, who is our filling in today as our worship associate. We luck out because she's one of our most experienced worship people, chair of our worship committee. So Lori, what's going on?
Oh, we got a lot. So I'll be as quick as I can. So those of you out there who have Imagine raffle tickets, if you sold them and you need to get your money back and you need to return the raffle tickets, and if you have any questions about why, see Sue McKay. Our basket auction. Oh, if you didn't go, you missed a really fun time, and the result is over $3,000 for all the baskets that we had. So woo! So now there is I'll call it the mini raffle. So out in the Dorothy, there is a raffle for a beautiful quilt out there and pillows. And if you want to get tickets, be sure to do that early in fellowship, because I think that the drawing is going to be during fellowship. Am I right? Okay. And let me see. So today is the Feeding Souls and Ringing Bells that we do every second Sunday. So that will be happening at 11:30. And we will also be having a beginning of our Spirit of Drumming Circle that will be meeting today. This is the only time we will be meeting in December. So be sure to hang around and come and drum with us. And even if you've never drummed before, it doesn't matter. We have lots of drums, and it's just empowering to do it. So upcoming worship news. Next Sunday is the annual winter solstice singing ritual. So be sure to come and welcome back the light. And on Saturday, December the 21st, we'll have our traditional Christmas Eve service at 7 o'clock. And we will not have church on Sunday morning, the 25th. So you can stay home with your family that day. And we will be having a service on New Year's Day. John Aramond is going to do a on-demand hymn sing. So it will, you know how great he is at just tell him you want to sing something and he'll start playing it. So be sure to come to that. So to help us make our sanctuary as beautiful as possible for our Christmas Eve service, out in the Dorothy, there where you first come in, there's little envelopes that give you an opportunity to donate to the poinsettias that we'll be purchasing to decorate our sanctuary. So be sure to get a little money in for that. And if you're planning on participating in the UUA Common Read, the books are on back order. So just be aware that as soon as they come in, you will hear from me. And, the mitten tree. So the mitten tree is back there starting to look really beautiful and getting covered with mittens. They're going to be doing it through next Sunday. So be sure that you bring in your mittens, scarves, hats, and what we collect on the mitten tree will be donated to the Shaw House. I think I got everything. Hi, Zoomers. And okay, good. Thank you very much. We're so pleased that there's so many things going on here at UUSB.
There are also handouts that list all the announcements if you're like me and have a hard time remembering all the things that were just talked about. And I also want to highlight that next Sunday at 6 o'clock, I will be offering a blue holiday service. So if anybody is feeling a little blue or not quite in the hustle and bustle merriment of the season, and you just want a comfortable, peaceful, contemplative space to be together, I will be hosting you here at 6 o'clock in the sanctuary, and we'll light some candles and tell some stories and listen to some wonderful music. So put that on your schedules too if you have some space in the middle of your holiday hubbub. Sunday, next Sunday at 6 p.m. evening. Yeah. Let's see. Okay. So, with all of the energy that is going on, all the things, all the activities, let's just take a moment to prepare ourselves to be together in worship. Take a couple deep breaths, come into this space that we make holy by our presence, and know that each and every person is welcome here just as they are.
Our chalice will be lit this morning by Emma Peterson. There you are. Are the words on the screen? I can? Okay. We light our flaming chalice to illuminate the world we seek. In the search for truth, may we be just. In the search for justice, may we be loving. And in loving, may we find peace. So this is our third week of Advent, and so Emma's also going to help us light the candles for Advent. So far, we have lit a candle for patience, and one to dispel the darkness. And this week, we pledge to work for that most rare of things, peace on earth. In this holiday season, may we find peace inside ourselves. May we be peace for those around us. May we renew our commitment to bring peace with justice to our community and the world. May we be peace. Blessed be. Oh, I think we have an opening hymn that you'll find in your gray hymnal. It is number 238, With the Shining of a Star.
And Robin is going to play this through once so you can get familiar with the tune.
Now I see we've got a lot of SEE participants in the sanctuary this morning. And so all of those young and young at heart that would like to come down to the rug, Reverend Drew will be telling our story. Let me see, do we have the name of it? Nope, he's going to tell you what it is.
Oh, it is so good to see all of you. It's amazing how well you fill up this space and love hearing your noises and seeing your faces. It's great to have you here. So today, I'm going to tell you a story. There's a lot of different holidays that we celebrate this time of year. Next week, we'll be celebrating the solstice, which comes from several different ancient festivals and rituals that mark the full circle of the earth rotating around the sun. Many of these festivals that we're celebrating encourage the sun to return and welcoming back of longer days. Also, cultures that came later created some of their own stories about light and hope at this time of year. And one of those stories is the Jewish story of Hanukkah. How many of you have ever heard that word before, Hanukkah? Yeah, lots of people familiar with that. The celebration of Hanukkah happens over 8 days and nights. It is a story that is believed to be real, that actually happened almost 2,000 years ago. The story is about a Jewish family who are driven out of their homeland by invaders who came into the Jewish city of Jerusalem and raided and stole and destroyed the people's homes and all their stores and all their public places, including their temple, where the Jewish people came and worshiped, kind of like our church. Now, do you think the Jewish people like that?
Nope. No.
All right, very clear, no. Can you imagine what it would feel like if somebody came into our church building or the SE space and started smashing things up and destroying them?
Except my PlayStation.
You wouldn't be too happy about that, right? We wouldn't like that at all.
Anything except my PlayStation.
Yeah. Well, what if they came and they smashed your PlayStation? Would you like that?
Cover with the shotgun.
You wouldn't like that. Yeah.
I would not like that. I would honestly do some worse things.
Mhm.
I would focus on the good thing. I can rebuild and
Ah.
harmony. And who cares about that stuff?
You wouldn't get so upset about them doing that, but you would focus on the rebuilding. You're already ahead of the story here. You are,
And the materials.
yeah.
Like let's say a candle broken out. We could use the wax to build something.
I love it. Great.
If anyone destroyed any of my stuff, they're dead.
Okay.
With a shotgun or with a knife?
Well, let's continue with the story. We got some good ideas flowing here, some good energy in the room, and I like it. So we probably wouldn't like it if somebody came in and started doing all those kinds of things to our space, and they didn't like it either, but they were also afraid because they were afraid that they might get hurt. And so these Jewish people decided that they were going to kind of run away for a little bit, and then they kind of regrouped and tried to figure out what they were going to do next. It made them very angry that they were being invaded and all these things had been taken away from them. They hadn't done anything wrong, and they were also very much afraid. But one very special, brave family called the Maccabees decided that they were going to channel their anger, and they fought back. And they basically drove the Syrian invaders that were stealing their land and preventing them from worshiping in their temple out of the city of Jerusalem. They fought back and they struggled, and it was a long, hard struggle. It was not an easy thing, and people did get hurt. Finally, when they reclaimed their temple, their most sacred place, they came in and saw all the destruction. Everything had been smashed up, and they started going through all the rubble and all the things that were destroyed, and they finally found their sacred oil lamp, an oil lamp that And the Jewish custom at the time was to keep a lamp burning in the temple all the time, 24/7. So somebody had to tend that lamp all the time. And their lamp was kind of a symbol of their holiness and their connection to each other and to God. Kind of like our flaming chalice, right? That we light at the beginning of every service. It's one way that we call ourselves into relationship with each other and the sacred. So they found their sacred lamp. When they found it, it was kind of dented up and messed up a little bit, but it would still work. And then they went around looking to try and find the oil that they put in the lamp to let it burn. After searching through the temple, they only found a very small bit of oil, enough oil that would only burn a couple days, but they needed it to last a lot longer because they didn't have a lot of supply of oil. So what did they do? What did they do? They were kind of sad. They were kind of despairing. They had just reclaimed the temple. What did they do?
They can probably rebuild, like I said, but not
Mhm.
just rebuild. They can rebuild mines and mine for other ores, and those ores you could smelt, and
Mhm.
then you get better tools to protect your land betterly, and then you can keep
So they
mining
can, yeah,
until you
yeah.
get very,
So
very,
they could
very,
rebuild, right?
and then
Right?
they could get weapons betterly, and
Okay.
even get a mine that will get them more
But
oil.
what did they do in the moment?
They thought about it and they had some time.
So they think they just thought about it and they waited to wait for more oil to come?
They could probably just buy some more oil and then just put it. Yeah, but money doesn't.
Yeah, but back in those days, they didn't have the money. That the stores were all destroyed, right? So they had this choice. What should they do? What should they do?
They could rebuild those stores and then buy oil.
Right, and that would take some time, right? Yeah,
Stores or money.
yeah,
Probably would have.
yeah. They didn't have a store that they could just go to. So I'll tell you what they did do. They decided they had the conversation just like we're doing right now. Should they wait to light the sacred lamp, or should they light it now? And finally, they decided that they couldn't wait. It was important for them to light that lamp of hope, that lamp that would call them back into community after being dispersed and after being away from each other and all the things that they had been through. So they lit the lamp, knowing that the oil would probably only last a couple of days. And that's when the miracle happened. Because the oil in the lamp
Lasted even longer.
burned even longer. It burned 8 whole days. And now if you were a scientist, you'd say, well, that's just absolutely preposterous. There's no way that that oil could burn. But it was an experience that they had, and an experience that they saw as a miracle. It was a sign from God telling them that God wanted them to be happy, that God was happy that they endured the long suffering that they had and dealing with these invaders and driving them out, and that God didn't want to destroy them, but instead wanted them to come back to be together in community.
I think God was actually happy when that happened because that actually showed them what they
Mm-hmm.
can do together and what they can do as a as a group.
Yeah.
And the losses they might have gotten,
Mm-hmm.
they showed that you can get over things you lose. If you lose something you love, like your house,
Mm-hmm.
then that doesn't matter. You always have more that you can do, more that you can give, more
Yeah.
that people can do for you and them.
I love it. I don't know if everybody can hear, but he's talking about how this is also a symbol of being able to rebuild and come together and whatnot. And I think that that's exactly what this story is about, because it's a good lesson for all of us.
We always
How many of you have ever felt angry or frustrated or discouraged? Yeah. Does that mean that we should give up and never try again? No. The lesson of Hanukkah reminds us that we all need sometimes to take a break, to pause in the moment, and that we should never give up in the middle of struggles, Because often it's the thing that we struggle against that are the things that will teach us the most important lessons that we need to learn in life. So I'm going to keep going here for a little bit, and I'll take some questions at the end. Okay? Okay. So let's wait to the end here so we can get through this. I love the energy. So next Sunday at sunset, the Jewish people from all around the world will light candles for 8 days to remember the story of Hanukkah. They will light one candle each day to symbolize each day that the oil burned in that sacred lamp over 2,000 years ago. The final candle, and here's right here a little example. This is a menorah, which is the special candle holder that is used to celebrate Hanukkah. And there's actually 9 candles there. And the last candle is called the shamash, or the servant candle, and it is used to light all the other candles. Because the oil in the lamp was made of olive oil, the Jewish people also celebrate the holiday by eating foods that are fried in olive oil, like donuts and potato pancakes. They're called latkes, yummy stuff. Often, families will sit together in the darkness and tell stories of Hanukkah and to watch the candles burn. At Hanukkah, when you light the menorah candles, you do not blow them out. Instead, you have to sit there and wait for them to burn out on their own, which is why the candles that we use in the menorah tend to be fairly small and skinny candles, so you don't have to be there all day. Today, we are not going to light the candles of the menorah because the holiday does not begin until next Sunday at sundown, and we'll be doing a solstice service next Sunday, so we won't get a chance to light the candles this year. But if you wanted to, I'm sure you could talk to your parents. You could probably make your own little menorah, and you could probably tell the story and light the candles and sit in candlelight and experience the magic that Hanukkah brings. So, with that, I just want to remind us again that Hanukkah reminds us never to give up, because things will change, things will get better, even when they don't seem like they will. And since there's a couple other comments, I'll take 3 short comments before we go. And I'm going to see, is anybody who hasn't had their hand up wants to speak? I think. Okay, I'll have you. It sounds like the candle, the story of the candle and the miracle. In what? In a god? In Ganto. Okay. Okay, it's a movie. Okay, that I'm not familiar with, so I wasn't understanding. Okay, I'll have to look that Ganto. Okay, okay.
I have a question and a statement and a question.
Okay.
So the days get shorter the more we get into Christmas. And my question is, does the days get shorter the more the Christmas happens?
The days get shorter as we move to what we call solstice, right? And that's the shortest day of the year. And someone can help me. I think it's the 20th this year, 21st this year. Okay. So the 21st of December, and you can look and you can notice that the day will be really, really short. And one last comment.
So basically, how the oil could be like come down, like to like be like tiny bit. They could have like burned it down, like they could have like used like a lighter to just or like a torch.
Mhm.
That's basically I don't think they invented lighters back then.
They did not have lighters back then. Yep. Yep. Yep.
And it burnt all the oil, most of it, anyways.
Yeah. That could have been what happened by the invaders. They could have burnt all the oil, so that's why they didn't have it. So, the spirit of Hanukkah, again, is that things will get better. And speaking of which, um, things are going to get a little bit better because now's the time to sing you down to your classes. And I hope you enjoy your time downstairs. So there's that element of joy of young people being so comfortable to be able to ask a lot of questions, and also a little bit of concern about being able to get through a story and to move on. Yeah, which leads us well into the next segment of our service, the time of joys and sorrows. Okay, so I now invite you to join me in the spirit of meditation and prayer. Great universal spirit, interconnected web of which we are a part, we gather today in this space to hold up the joys and sorrows that are part of our lives. Today we remember loved ones who have passed and the wonderful ways that they have informed our lives as we continue to hold them in our hearts this holiday season. We also hold up the changing of the season, the shortening of days, the turning of the weather and the coldness, and the awareness that there are people in our community who are living out in this cold and gloom. Spirit, we also hold up the many joys of new life, of new children, of child dedications, and the way that our community comes together to hold our children, and for the noise and the raucous and the many questions that children bring to our lives that make them help make our lives so interesting and meaningful. We also celebrate this time of season that asks us to look inward at the same time it asks us to be celebratory and joyous, and having people visit us from far away and kids returning from school. All this mixed up into an interesting slurry of emotional roller coaster. May we be present to all of the ups and downs. Spirit, we gather in this time and place because we know that each life tells an important story. Each life holds a deep and abiding truth. By coming together and sharing with each other our joys and our sorrows, we grow closer to each other, and we grow closer to becoming one. Blessed be. Amen. Now is the time in our service when we receive our offering. We share our gifts, but not for ourselves alone. And half of our plate collection this month will go to support the Bangor Homeless Shelter. So, as always, we give gratitude for your generosity in advance. We give thanks for the gifts that are collected, both to support this beloved community and the community outside these walls. Blessed be.
Our reading this morning is called Winter Begins Today by Agnes Zuniga. Our winter begins today, the time of darkness which we know always arrives and which we know as surely will pass in time into the seasons of light and warmth. The seasons of the soul have their own rhythm, their own reasons. Who knows that a light of some of us can reunite us with folks so dear? Who knows the anguish of some among us as our celebrations bring only the reminder of loss? Who knows the pain of uncertainty within others, plagued with doubts and fear, and wondering if there will be another winter for me? Who can tell what hope is budding in some hearts, even as our sun grows cold in the misting sky? The seasons of the soul turning in their own time, in their own way, unlike the seasons of earth, bring to each of us a different experience of those days of Christmas time and solstice. We have in this winter of earth, and whatever season of the soul, the most precious gifts that we can give away and to keep. We have ears for hearing each other, for listening to one another's needs. We have eyes for seeing the signs, for knowing the beauty of another person, for pursuing the uniqueness, eyes for telling our own unspoken stories. We have hands for reaching to help, for reaching to give and to receive, hands which hold and caress and forgive. Let us then remember the forgotten. Let us seek to heal the injured, to nourish the weak, and to revive the withered. Let us be there to love the unloved and the dying. May our minds and our hearts burn with solstice fires and prove that the human spirit lives and thrives. That whatever the season of sun or of soul, there reigns a dauntless determination to outlast together every difficult and challenging time. Let us be filled with the light and merriment that our celebrations bring, that we look ahead in hope and in faith to the earth's rebirth and the springtime of the soul. Blessed be.
Hi, can you hear me? I'm playing an unpublished piece of music for the special music today. My cousin, Lori Henneman, died of breast cancer 6 years ago in her 40s. She was funny, she had a biting wit, a brilliant scientist and artist and musician, and this was the last piece that she wrote.
Thank you, Robin, for sharing that wonderful piece of music. And I know your friend, um, wherever their spirit um, um, is happy that you shared that with us. It's beautiful, beautiful music. Mm. Mm. Stories. Many ancient stories remind us of one of the most fundamental questions of human existence: how to find hope in the middle of our deepest and darkest struggles. Ancient cultures were acutely aware of the earth's turning, of the changing of seasons, and they were also acutely aware of the metaphor of the seasons changing within our own souls. As our reading reminded us, our lives also experience these seasons of age, of mind, of body, and of consciousness. We experience those seasons when we are happy and joyful and active. We have seasons of the soul where we look inward and struggle with the heaviness of burden, loss, struggle, and gloom. We also have a season in which we transform from one paradigm to another, sometimes slowly and gracefully, and other times with an abrupt crash as we head towards the bottom below, free falling and heading for the rocks. Hopefully, we don't spend our whole lives in struggle and uncertainty. But often we do spend a lot of time there because as human beings, we are preconditioned with a bias towards negativity as a means for our survival. We remember those adverse conditions more than we remember the joyful ones. We often feel heaviness and weight of difficult feelings intensely in moments, and happiness and joy is fleeting, including my thumb on the iPad here, which is a little fleeting because I just jumped a whole page. We retell the stories of difficult times and of recovery, from the story of Persephone leaving her mother and returning from the underworld to the story of Hanukkah and the struggle of the Maccabees. We tell the story of the birth of Jesus in difficult and precarious circumstances. In retelling these stories year after year, we continue to remind ourselves that life can be difficult, yet the most meaningful experiences of our lives come through hardship and triumph over the impending gloom. That is our loyal companion on the journey from cradle to grave. Stories like this remind us that one of the keys of our ongoing survival is to find hope, symbolized by light in the midst of the darkest moments of our being. I often wondered why light was the symbol that we use to give hope. I don't claim to know the answer, but when I think about it, life often brings with it a sense of warmth. When it shines, it allows us to notice visually that there are many resources, many other people, many other objects and tools that we have that we can use to make a shelter and get by. When we experience darkness, we lose one of our most dominant senses, sight. When we can't see things, we feel anxious, we feel separate, we feel alone and helpless. That panic overrides the gifts that the darkness can bring by looking inward and being able to sit with that uncomfortableness in a space of a cocoon. As a meditation teacher, I find that almost universally the students that I teach, when they're first learning to meditate, prefer to do so with their eyes closed, because sight is such a distraction. It is really hard to meditate with your eyes open, a skill I am still working on. But add light to any circumstance, and sight becomes more possible, and we have a fuller awareness of our surroundings. I remember as a child having many moments when I was afraid of the dark, afraid of that which I couldn't see. The bogles that hid in the closet or underneath the bed, which bogles are Scottish kind of tricksters. Kind of the bogey, that's where the bogeyman comes from bogles. Especially when we are in an unfamiliar place, when we have no sight as a reference, it is hard sometimes to find our balance or notice other things that might be around us that could bring us joy or hope. But add light, and it doesn't take much. A single oil lamp burning in a temple, a candle on the coffee table at home, a phone call, a postcard, a note from a friend, or a word of encouragement from a stranger when things seem to be their lowest. These are all ways that we can help and be lights for each other. Last Thursday was another holiday that doesn't get celebrated as much in our culture. Does anybody know what that was? Trick question. It's Bodhi Day. Bodhi Day is the day that is believed that the Buddha, after sitting underneath the Bodhi tree, finally awoke to his wisdom and teachings of how to let go of suffering. The light helped the newly engaged Buddha see through the temptations of greed, aversion, and delusion in a way that brought clarity and wisdom. In the story of his awakening, at the very end, after Buddha kind of understood the world in a very different way, there was a demon called Mara who basically tried to tempt the Buddha with greed, with aversion, and with delusion, but with sight, with that insight that we say in Buddhist circles, insight. The Buddha was able to see through all these different ailments, all these not so healthy states of being, and find a way to work on letting go of suffering and not letting suffering be the only thing that we experience in our lives, that there's a lot of joy and a lot of happiness that can be there too. Even at the end of the Buddha's life, his parting words, advice to his followers in the world was, "Be ye lamps unto yourselves." In that simple saying, I think we can capture the essence of many of the traditions that we celebrate at this holiday season. Retelling and living these stories reminds us of the difficult times that we struggle with, and that there is something calling us forward through that adversity. If one interprets the Buddhist saying in the plural form, it also reminds us that we have the ability, through living our lives in a kind and compassionate way, that we can support the light in each other and help find meaning and purpose, not just for ourselves, but for the world. Again, it doesn't take much. A match, a pinhole in the roof on a sunny day, the light and a child's eyes in the midst of wonder and awe at the holiday season. Sometimes it just takes one candle to make all the difference. Blessed be. Amen. And with that, Robin is going to help us light a candle and bring some joy into our hearts with our closing hymn, Light One Candle. As we extinguish our Unitarian Universalist chalice flame, symbol of faith, hope, love, and connection, let us be reminded that our chalice flame, the light of our movement, the light of our focus and our energy, is something that continues to burn long after we are out in the world, apart from each other in the sanctuary, and that although our time of worship has come to an end, our service to each other and to the world has just begun. Great, thank you. I now invite you all to join in singing our benediction.